Welcome to A Simple Life. Tomorrow's Father's Day. Well, today for you, happy Father's Day. And I launched this channel 2 years ago. If you think it was just like a snap decision, I thought about doing content for 2 years before that. And then I sat around for 6 months, afraid to post. And finally, on Father's Day, I decided, well, actually, it was the night before Father's Day, I decided I was just going to post it the next day. It'd be my Father's Day gift to myself, just getting down and doing what I really wanted to do, which was to share our lives, how we live, how we're growing, where we're going as a family, the stuff I learned about farming and living in the country, because nobody in my family lives on a farm and haven't in generations. As close as we got is my grandfather. He bought a farm, but he was a banker, and that was about the end of it. 2 years, we've done so much. I don't know, you might want to go back. There's a video, I'll put it up in the top. We cut a road in here. The road in here was 8 feet wide. You could barely get a pickup truck down it. How do I know you could barely get a pickup truck? Because a power company almost lost their truck right down the ravine, which is about 90 feet down. We got that in, we cleaned up the grapes, we took down the old house. We ran goats through the woods, we got goats through the ivy. We did all kinds of stuff over the last couple of years. And I've learned a lot. And it wasn't just me. See, this is kind of the part, like I'm the face of it, right? You know, a lot of what I do wouldn't be possible without my children and my wife. Thank you, boys. Thank you, family. Thank you guys for watching. I'm always surprised that people actually care. All right, and you're gonna see a shirt change because, well, I already filmed this bit. So we'll be back in a minute. So the strategy is to take areas that have a little bit too much of a hill to them and to terrace them. Now, the area right here next to me, this was already terraced. It had just been really overgrown and hadn't been kept up very well for a long time. And so I just kind of redid the terrace when I came through and ripped out all the grapes in this area. And I just kind of fixed it and, you know, pretty much, it was pretty much the way it was. Now, over the hill right there is where the fig trees are. And last year I went in there and I terraced that as well. And it turned out beautiful, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted. Now, let me explain what I've learned, failures, successes of the difference between this area, the figs, and a new area that I haven't shown you yet that I just got done working on the other day, and why this area behind me is going to be changed and more similar to another area. Let me show you. So as we walk over, I want to show you the area that we put that edible cover crop in last week. I talked about putting in squashes and pumpkins and watermelons and cantaloupe and I can't remember what else, a bunch of stuff like that. We're going to do some maintenance. We're going to water it. But for the most part, it's there to grow cover crop plus some yummy stuff for us to eat. Now, in the last week, 10 days or so, plants have started coming up. Let me show you. There you go. There's a little guy right there that popped up. And another one. Another one. All the way through here. Little melons and watermelons and zucchinis and squashes, they're all starting to come up. All right, let me show you the new area that we just terraced and the strategy behind it, because one of the things I want to do is as you drive up here, I want to eat the food that comes from a beautiful place. Completely sentimental, I know, it's romantic, but I really want this area to be absolutely beautiful. It doesn't mean it has to be perfectly maintained. It doesn't mean that everything has to be dialed perfectly. It's just, I want it to feel like somewhere you would want to be. There you go. That's the idea. One of the things that we did in the last 3 or 4 months when we were coming in here and redoing this area, we planted some sunflowers all the way along the edge. There's some calendula, that's this little plant right here, along with some wheat that's starting to come to get ahead on it. Now, this is obviously not production wheat, it's just wheat. And the idea for me is as you drove up, this would be beautiful. And as I looked across this valley as I drove up, I just saw brush. And it's a really steep hillside, probably about a 45-degree grade, maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more. I thought about how beautiful it would be if there was some type of gardens directly across, whether those are flower gardens or whatever they are, I'm not sure. Maybe some cut flowers. That'd be really nice to plant some flowers in there and be able to include those into CSA boxes or farmer's market or farm stand or something like that. So as you come up the road, this is what you'll end up seeing. We have the fig patch, and then we have the new figs that we just planted all down in here. And as you can see, my ryegrass has really gotten tall and has gone to seed. One of the failures is this area, the area I put the figs. I had never done anything like this. I tried to do some research and didn't really find much in the way of, how to terrace, what to look for, how to do it, what to plan, the positives, the negatives. And to be honest, these are too narrow. They're wide enough to get a tractor or a small mower through and not hit the figs, but they're just too narrow to do anything else. And as I started thinking about this area, I started to realize I'd kind of failed. I'd set it up so I could just put fig trees in here, and it was going to be hard to put much of anything else. And all this area could have been farmed differently. And so when I started looking at this area behind me, right over here, I started thinking about how I could add garden beds to my gardens, because my greenhouse is right up over there past the fig trees. And the cooler is right up here, and cabin, everything surrounds this area. I realized that if I wanted to maximize the amount of space I had to garden and to work with, that this was a perfect spot to put some more garden beds. Well, this was a pretty useless hillside to me. It was too steep to really want to walk up and down. Didn't really want to plant figs on it because of the steepness of it. And so as I started thinking about what I could do here to make it beautiful, to make that view looking across this little valley, ravine, gorge, whatever you want to call it, I started imagining what I'd like to see. And what I would like to see, well, is something colorful, not just green. I mean, green is just beautiful. I mean, we have such beautiful, lush greens. Trust me, I'm not complaining about greenery. As somebody with a design background, I really love to think of the aesthetic side of things. Not overthink it, but what would I like? When people look at the property, what are they going to see? They're going to see a lot of green. They're going to see a lot of vegetables. They're going to see a lot of fruit. But they're not going to see a lot of color, because most of those things are kind of just green until they have something of color on them, like fruit or, an interesting leaf or something like that. So I started thinking about how I can introduce more color into the property. So there's multiple functionalities of flowers. They are beautiful. Some of them are edible. They can be sold. They can be dried. They can just be enjoyed. And so this area is going to be for that. Now, it might not be that for that right now. Right now, what we have is we have some grass seed down, and we've been watering it in. And some of those oats and that rye has already started to take off. Not as much in here, but on this top one it has. Let me show you. So as you can see, some of that grass is starting to take off, and it's going to help hold the soil in place. It's one of the reasons why I like ryegrass, because ryegrass has a great ability to build a good root system. So there's two things I kind of did differently. I went much wider. This is almost 20 feet across. I went much longer. I actually found areas where I was going to disturb less soil to get the same effect. What I mean by that is right over there, you can see I only took about 5 feet off of that hillside and kind of moved it down. When I did that, I made sure I left a lot of brush on this hillside with the idea that that brush, those root systems, all that will help hold this hillside in place. Now, it looks really steep in here, but actually it's probably only a little less than 45 degrees. So it's probably 35, 40 degrees. And for our area with brush and everything still in place, that's going to hold just fine. The contrast between these terrace and the terrace down here is pretty drastic, because right now, with how overgrown the grass is on this hillside, you can't even tell they're really terrace. You can kind of see it, but it's not as obvious. Now, how is that going to change what we're going to do in the other area? Well, let me show you. All right, on our way over, I couldn't help but want to show you the figs. Look at these fig trees. I mean, these things have gone absolutely crazy. A lot of these have a lot of fruit on them. And look at that. I can reach all this fruit. All this fruit that's up here, I can reach. In the past, that wasn't the case. It was way, way up high. These are absolutely going bonkers. They're doing so good. And to be honest, I'm not shocked. They're fig trees. They're very hardy. We're back over here, and these terraces are about 6 feet wide, and they drop down about 2 feet. And so if I was to put 2 beds in here, I can get 2 like 30-inch beds with a path down the middle, and then I got a 2-foot or 3-foot kind of slope I could put something else on. As I started thinking about this, I started thinking about the fact that those big ones that I just put in seem so much more functional. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm actually going to level these out, and I'm going to give myself additional square footage of garden space, because right now I have 4 6-foot wide beds, about 100 feet long. So 24 feet wide, 100 feet long, 2,400 square feet of garden space. We'll just call it that. It may be a little longer, a little shorter. Doesn't really matter. If I level these out to 2 terrace, so we have what will essentially be a 16-foot and another 16-foot, because we don't have the dead space in between, I'll end up with 3,200 square feet of gardening space. So I just went up by 30%. So I'd be a fool not to take the additional 800 square feet or 30% gardening space, especially since up here on the hilltop, we have limited space that isn't really hilly. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to take this top terrace and I'm going to knock it down and level it off. And I'm going to take this one and I'm going to knock it down and level it off. And we are going to end up with 2 16-foot sections. So why does this matter? And what have I learned about doing terrace over the last, well, we'll call it 2 years of kind of planning these out and starting to put them in? Well, one thing is you want to have a slope. You want them to roll with the land. What you don't want is them to be perfectly flat and water to pool on the backside. The other thing I've learned, as you've seen, is wider is better. Wider is better is something that it makes a lot of sense, but I didn't think about when I did this, because I was just following what was already here, the existing formula that was already here, and these were set up for grapes. And I figured, well, I'll just follow what's here, because why not? If it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, as I thought more and more about this area, it was kind of broken. It wasn't something I was going to be super happy with, trying to fit a bed here and a bed here. They're going to be 30 inches wide, and then I'm trying to straddle them to work, and it's just going to be kind of awkward. That is something I didn't really want to do. So we're going to make some changes, and we've learned a lot. And one of the best things about working up here is what you're about to see right now. These two. They're why I can do about 75% of the stuff I do up here. Thank you, boys. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on A Simple Life. Happy Father's Day. And we will see you guys next weekend. Bye.
Bye. Happy Father's Day.